Hey guys, welcome back. Group H here, Iron Squid number 2, as we now move into our final game in Group H between NesTea and ThorZaIN. We already had Violet advance, and we've already had Delphi being knocked out. Sean, this should be a good one.
Yeah, starting off on Whirlwind, which again is a map that allows for a lot of macro potential. It's a 4-player map, has plenty of expos to take, but weirdly has these open spaces that Zergs have been going, oh, well, I'm just going to go Baneling all in. So it's a consideration that many Terrans have to make. And it's a vulnerability I'm worried about with ThorZaIN's play. All throughout today, we've seen him trying to get away with these almost too thin defenses. It's gotten beyond too thin, and it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, in my practice, no one rushes me, so I've been building one Marine for defense at the start. I've been building one bunker for all of my bases, and I don't think that's going to cut it if NesTea decides to do this sort of all-in play. At the same time, we have been seeing NesTea do a lot more aggression than he traditionally does.
Yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of command center firsts. There's been a lot of command centers into factory, into starport, which can leave you vulnerable, as well as even the triple command center into, something like double either engineering bay or even armory. All of these things are very, very greedy, very, very like-minded in propelling you towards the mid to late game, not necessarily concerning yourself too much with that early game phase. So I was saying could be caught off a little bit.
Well, map on Whirlwind. I'm most excited to see the late game. I'm hoping it goes there because this is a map where, you look at something like Ohana, the Terran does a push, and the Zerg has to deal with that push, and that push immediately threatens all the possible bases for Zerg. But in this one, it's kind of like this push will threaten one or two of the possible bases, but the Zerg can always expand out the other direction. So there's a lot of potential for cool plays from both sides if it's a long match.
Yeah, I also like the way in which Whirlwind works, just in case they have spawned like rotationally from one another, but actually loading up, it appears they haven't. They've spawned cross positions, so what I was about to say was going to be very redundant, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's the way in which you have an option to take your third where you want to. So even if you still spawn in close positions, you can take your third away from your opponent, really kind of making it less of an issue spawning in close.
Let's go ahead and introduce our players who are now cross-map from one another. Maximum potential for long-term gameplay. Down on the bottom left, from Team Incredible Miracle, it is NesTea.
And spawning up in our top right-hand corner here as our Teal Terran, he goes by the name of E.G. ThorZaIN.
Looks like this is probably going to be the standard really, really fast command center play. And probably this is a map where I guess it's not a map where you see it a lot, but we do see NesTea almost every opportunity he can go for the triple hatch before pool. I bring that up because he seems to only do it on GSL designed maps, like on Abyssal, what's Atlantis Spaceship. I've seen him do it on Abyssal City. I've seen him do it on. Could potentially do it here. Wow, I'm shocked ThorZaIN isn't going command center first.
So am I, actually. I must admit. I think that he's evaluating. Actually, NesTea on 4-player maps is notorious for doing things a bit cheesy, I would say. Like just going for early pulls. So potentially that is something that he could be factoring into the first game.
Well, looks like we see another drone coming out of ThorZaIN, or out of, not another drone coming out of ThorZaIN. In fact, that is not true.
It's thanks.
And it looks, oh, yes! This is what happens when you watch every GSL that NesTea's ever been in. The 3 hatch coming up. This is very difficult for Terrans to deal with. Very, very, very difficult because, everyone likes to early expand nowadays. Everyone, whether it's command center first, whether it's barracks and then expand. And it's just extremely simple, easy, blunt way to deal with it. And hell, even Terrans are behind on scouting nowadays. We are seeing that very early scout from ThorZaIN. Actually, not very early, but comparatively early scout from ThorZaIN.
I wonder how ThorZaIN's actually going to play this out once he sees this early third hatchery. Is he going to get really, really aggressive, or does he go back home and says, Well, interestingly enough, he could say third command center, but what I would want to see from him after a really quick third hatch is maybe even a really quick fourth command center. I know it sounds ridiculous, and he's going for that quick third command center here, but we'll see what he wants to do.
Yeah, I don't. What I would not mind here is some sort of the play that you can do that's really counterintuitive is when you see this, you just go double engineering bay. And then you slowly tech up to a factory and get tanks and marines, and you can actually do your 2-2 push at 12.5 minutes or 13 minutes. It's stupid fast, but the only reason you can get away with it here is because NesTea is going to be spending so much of his resources on drones and defenses like spines. But painfully enough for ThorZaIN, he still has not scouted NesTea.
Yep, it's getting a little bit dodgy for him here. I'm really quite surprised he hasn't just sent something straight across the map, or just hasn't scouted out earlier on with an SCV or something like that. But he's just relying on triple command center, just relatively blindly, as his opponent back home, as you rightly pointed out before, he's just macroing up quite nicely as well. Ton of drones on the way, a ton of queens on the way, actually. Going up to 5 queens extremely hectically in order to get that creep spread going.
Yeah, I mean, when you go for triple hatch, you cannot defend with gas because you're basically doing it late.
Yeah.
So you must try to defend with minerals, which is why, any fast tech answer is quite effective. And ThorZaIN looks like he's going to try to answer with a really fast bunker. This is a very unusual play, but we see queens coming in from that other angle.
It's interesting. It almost seems as if ThorZaIN, well, he's pulling back now. He's literally ended up faking this. But it seems as if when he poked in with the bunker, he was thinking, well, this is a normally timed third, so maybe the Lings won't be able to get over here in time. But because he had that third out so quickly, then everything is in place right now with the queens, with the Lings and everything to just easily shoo that kind of play away.
I'm curious what ThorZaIN wants to do out of this moment, because generally when you go for 3 barracks play, you are intending on doing it without the third command center. Or if you do go for the third command center, you generally try to go for Heli and Banshee or some sort of tech. So or more importantly, go for the double engineering bay. I'm trying to sort through what ThorZaIN's goal could be with this style of play. It seems to kind of be doing a mix of half and half.
I'm getting just a little worried for ThorZaIN in general, I must admit, because NesTea behind this, because he has his third hatchery out so quickly, he gets up to that drone mark so much faster than he normally does, to the point where he then says, well, time to just make units. And then once that comes along, it's just, aggression after aggression after aggression from NesTea's point of view, whilst ThorZaIN is going to have to be defending that, kind of constricted to 2 bases, getting very, very scared. That's not a good position for Terrans to be in. He's going to he's trying to take his third right now, actually.
It's starting to be clear what ThorZaIN's goal is. He's going to be making a lot of Marines right at the start, so that way he can try to do a mobile defense. Again, it's a little bit hard to actually have the choke points on this map, but jeez, NesTea is going for the mass macro. He has a 4th hatch up before, before 8:30, just stupidly fast 1-1 en route. And interestingly, NesTea almost already at that 75 drone count, but flooding with Zerglings.
Yep, that is a ton of Zerglings on the way right now, as he's getting that 1-1 as well. But he's already up to 65 drones across 3 bases. That's a pretty good spot to be in. Interestingly enough, he hasn't taken his gas at his third just yet. I wonder what his plan is from here on out.
Well, it actually looks like NesTea's going to be trying to do these infamous style busts. He has a lot of Lings, 50 Lings out on the map, some Banelings up at the north side. And it looks like ThorZaIN sees that there's some Zerglings moving up to the top. Stim is just now finishing, but Combat Shield is actually nowhere near done. Tanks now starting up. Oh, I almost feel like ThorZaIN needed to focus more on the Marine count and less on the tank count. What are these Marines at the south end doing? This expansion is so vulnerable.
Really is. The Marines now having to, the Hellions going to push back ThorZaIN, NesTea for now. Meanwhile, the Marines pushing in, trying to find a little bit of a location to engage into. There's a lot of Banelings as well as Zerglings trying to move into this location to try and deal with all of this, and they will actually catch a lot of them. Banelings connect. The medevacs were not there in time to pick up.
Bold play from ThorZaIN. Maybe could have microed his way out, but I'm still worried about his expansion up at the top side. I mean, NesTea seems fixated on taking that out, still making more Zerglings at 48 with another 40 en route. But ThorZaIN is continuing to be aggressive. This is very unlike the ThorZaIN we normally see.
Yeah, I mean, he's positioning his entire army in the middle of the map right now, trying to somehow put on some aggression, but he has to be very, very mindful of the fact that Zerglings are going to run up into his natural, and from that point on, these kill off so many workers. 1-1 finishes up, Centrifugal Hooks is on the way as well, and look at that wave of Zerglings powering across the middle of the map.
Oh no, ThorZaIN has units being rallied all along the south end. He's struggling to regroup. He's rushing back. He accidentally loads up into the medevac as well. More units run headlong into these Zerglings. These are free, easy pickings for NesTea, who's now going to be able to dart up, and these unloaded Marines are coming out at the worst time. NesTea is exploiting these huge open spaces perfectly.
60 Zerglings versus 10 Marines is not going to leave ThorZaIN too happy here, as he has to lift up his third base, and there's still even more Zerglings funneling across the map. And with the Mutalist follow-up, as well as bases down to the south for NesTea, NesTea is looking on fire here in game number 1.
Such a smart focus to say on this huge map. Oh, GG.
Whoa.
ThorZaIN just taps out, you know? I love the fact that ThorZaIN was doing this sort of new aggressive bent, but it goes to show you that on a huge map like this, there's that weird counter dynamic where NesTea's just swinging around the top side, going into the base. I thought that the 6 Hellions maybe would have been okay. I was still worried about it, but it was really that Baneling connection down at the third base that stung ThorZaIN. And after that, trying to regroup just seemed to continue to fumble.
Yeah, that was brutality, I've got to say. NesTea played that out so well. That's arguably one of the best games I've seen for NesTea in quite a while. He looked so formidable there. So we're going to be going on to a commercial break in just a little bit here, guys. And when we're back, we shall jump onto game number 2 between LGIM's NesTea and EG's ThorZaIN.